Welcome back, my friends, to episode 22 of Beyond Bricks and Mortar. Now, today I'm joined by dear friend and mentor, Paul Bologna. Paul and I have known each other for about 11 years or so. A year into my tenure at Douglas Elliman, Paul jumped onto the management team and quickly became a close friend and mentor. He has a vast level of experience in real estate and also a vast level of experience in managing real estate agents. As SERHANT's executive director of sales, Paul is overseeing pretty much the entire operation as it relates to the agents. He's deeply passionate about getting involved directly with the agents, helping them bring deals over the finish line and helping them form new relationships with clients. Before I jumped aboard SERHANT, I was offered a very generous offer from Compass, and right before I signed my name on the dotted line, I got a call from Paul, and it was simply for him to tell me that he moved over to SERHANT onto the management team. That alone excited me enough to come through the door and see what I would potentially be missing out if I didn't join SERHANT. Fortunately, after one quick tour through that building, I knew that I would have been crazy not to come aboard. Paul's an absolutely brilliant mind in this world. There's no other real way to say it. I feel very fortunate to have him as an ally at SERHANT. This is a fantastic conversation, and this really just gets into the weeds a little bit about how Paul approaches his work. For new real estate agents out there, for anyone considering making the leap into this business, this is a great conversation for you to listen to. This one really pulls the curtain back on a lot of the cliches that we normally see in real estate and all the content and all the videos and all the podcasts. But as always, I'm very excited for you to listen and watch this one. If you are new here, welcome. New episodes of Beyond Bricks and Mortar are every single Wednesday, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe and follow and all the buttons. But now, without any further ado, here he is, my good friend, Paul Bologna. Everything you need, baby.
This is my first podcast.
Is it?
Yeah, I don't do these things.
Yeah, it's about time you start doing these things. You've been making quite a splash at SERHANT.
Oh, well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, you've been making quite an industry splash for quite a number of years at this point.
Let's hope. God almighty, I hope I do okay on this thing.
Can I offer you a drink?
I have some water.
Okay.
I think I'm going to need it.
Can I offer you something a little stronger?
No, not right now.
Okay.
Maybe during it. You'll get me going.
Yeah, no problem. I've got ice. I've got a few different... Remember when you guys used to always laugh at me about content? Mm-hmm. Look where we are now.
I know, this is great. Oh, you got a whole screen over there? Oh, there you go. And where's your camera?
Right there.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, I wanted to set this up in a way that, I can work and really not have to do anything to set this up. Like,
you did
just
great.
Press a few buttons, turn on the lights, and we're good to go.
Yeah.
And now this is like the 23rd or 24th episode I've filmed this year.
How many viewers do you get so far?
It depends on the episode. It's growing more and more with each one. Yeah. There's a couple of clips that did really, really well, specifically from my episode with Jeff. That really took off. So we're getting somewhere, more and more every day. I think it's just with anything like this, it's just about consistency. Yeah. It's the same thing that it was the first year I started vlogging, like just hitting those those first 52 weeks. So that's what I'm doing with this. And I feel like I always need like a consistent creative initiative to keep me engaged. And, it's like the thing that keeps me in this business. Yeah. It's never really been the real estate that revs my engine itself as much as like the opportunity to use it as a vehicle for creativity. Sure. So yeah, like I love it. It's been great. It definitely takes up time, but I've been able to bring in someone who helps me now to buy that time back and, do the editing on these podcasts now that they understand, how I like it to look.
And we know you you're very specific about how you like it.
I can be, yes. But, I've always been a little bit stubborn about my vision when it comes to the creativity. I think that I've seen how things like reality TV can misconstrue a lot of what's really happening.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, it's so true, though, that reality TV seems to be able to have that effect. But the reality is that reality TV has upped our game and brought us to a whole nother level.
Yeah. How do you feel about what's coming?
It's interesting. So from a brand perspective, I think it's great, right? I think what Ryan's done, and I think where the brokerage sits, and I think one of the things that makes the brokerage a unique place is that with what we do here at SERHANT is different than what everybody else does, right?
Right.
I say that there's a shift that's going on, kind of like what happened in the car industry, that, there's this whole guard that runs off of gasoline. does all the traditional marketing, all the traditional components of, the back end of brokerage and stuff. And that there's this whole shift, podcast being one of them, right? Multimedia, how you communicate to your buyers of today, right? The buyers of today are a younger generation. You ask any of them, when was the last time you went and opened up your mailbox?
Yeah.
They all ask my email.
I check my mail like once every 10 days.
Yeah. So mailboxes.
I always just like fly right by it when I walk into the building at night.
So mailboxes have no more purpose, to this younger generation. But the older generation, for the listing side, still will go and check, and those postcards that come in and everything, those just listed, just sold, in contract, they may pick them out. They'll hold on to them. Some will put them off to the side. Yeah. But there's this whole shift. And the shift is that younger generation checks DMs more than they check mailboxes.
Right.
They check, TikToks and videos, and they're looking at things from a different lens than what the older generation is doing. So
it's reached a point where pretty much every single time I post on social media, something good comes out of it. That doesn't necessarily mean like, a new listing comes out of it. It just means that there are more connections and more clear, visible reminders.
Yes.
I think like when the overarching objective is just to make sure your network is aware of who you are and what you're doing on a regular basis, and also reminding them of, who you are in true fashion to yourself.
Yes.
I think that's what gets the job done, because real estate is a really popular conversation in this city.
It is.
People are always talking about it, especially in the context of homes, because this city has some incredible homes.
Yes.
So you just want to make sure that you're top of mind when people in your network are talking about that subject.
And you really need to be top of mind through this whole social. And just going back to it, so we are doing more of what I call that hybrid, right? We can still send out postcards. We can still make phone calls. We can still do all that stuff. But we create this content. This content creation speaks to that younger generation, which today is our buyers. And it's interesting. It even goes beyond this younger generation. But I always say, like, if you're going out for a listing and you want to pitch on it, you have to pitch. How are you going to get me the best price? Well, easy. I can do all your old school stuff. I could be a gasoline car, but I can also be this hybrid over here. And I'm also doing this whole other side of things. And doing that allows me to get a much larger buyer pool for you. The thing that makes it incredible for us is obviously having Ryan around and having him do all of this stuff for so many years and build such
he's a very inspiring figure.
Extremely. So it's inspiring that I actually went on a listing pitch with one of the agents. They brought me out on it, and we got a call from the owner, and the owner wasn't necessarily going to go with us, and she was speaking with her 84-year-old father. And she told him who we were and what we did. And he said, I know exactly who they are, and you should definitely list with them. And she's a marketing person. She comes from a marketing background, heavy on that stuff. And she kind of saw the vision, but she didn't really understand it. But then she started understanding it when her 84-year-old father was like, hey, no. They're right.
He's seen Ryan on TV.
He's seen Ryan on TV. But he also understood the power of this side of it. And I always say that, us as a brokerage and agents that like yourself who are working with us, we're going to be ahead of the game, because eventually all those buyers become your sellers. And what you'll see is that the old way of doing things like gasoline will go away, and everybody's going to try to figure out, well, now how do I build that other side of it, which is an electric car, so to speak, right? Keeping in context. And eventually we will become the Tesla of real estate. And then, everybody's going to be playing catch up. And any agents who haven't done this and engaged in it and developed this online platform and, gotten these followers will fall behind. And agents like yourself will continue to rise to the top.
Yeah. And I think like, I feel like I came to SERHANT at the perfect point in my career where my base of knowledge was already there.
Yeah.
I have a very strong network and a long history in the business, and I've worked really, really hard on my reputation. And now coming to SERHANT has just elevated my business completely. And I think, of course, the goal with a podcast like this is to add value to the audience in many different contexts. Sure. In this context, I would think that a lot of first-year real estate agents, early-stage real estate agents would listen to this, and they would hear your voice as someone who's been in it as a seasoned professional on the management side, on the brokerage side, going really deep in the world of rentals and having that been where you really made your bones.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of stories I recall you telling me over the years, and we'll get to those. But I think like where I want to start is, how important is patience?
Oh, well, listen, I think you've heard me say this numerous times when I'm talking to very brand new agents who are just getting into this business. I always give them the speech of the 3 Ds: dedication, drive, and desire. You have to be dedicated to this, and dedication is a couple different things, but the big part of it is that it's a 24/7, 365 business, but more so than that, it's a career path.
Yeah, it's a process.
It is. It is a process, right? It takes time.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time to develop and to build a business. But if you look at it as a career path, something you're going to be into for the next 10, 15, really 20 years, no different than for this generation who's probably listening, mostly your grandparents, right? Even your parents, right? They got into a field and they stayed into it for a very long time. And again, going back to reality TV, I think reality TV has brought our industry to the forefront. If you think about it, right? Kids are coming out of college now. They're coming out of college with degrees in real estate. While the masters or programs are offering degrees in
kind of useless.
Yeah, well, it isn't. It isn't. Depends on which part of it you're going into. If you're going to be in our side of it, we're doing a lot of this resale and things like that of that nature.
Our business is emotional.
It is emotional.
I find that our business is far more about people and connection.
Yes.
And also it's far more about ourselves than commercial real estate.
Oh, yeah. Commercial is just numbers. And
it's numbers. It's a business of the brain. We're in the business of the heart.
It is. It is. So going back to the 3 Ds, though, so dedication, drive, right? So drive is an interesting one, right? It's that ability to continuously pick yourself up, push yourself forward.
Yeah, and just keep moving.
And keep on moving.
And it's brutal.
It is brutal. But the thing that most people don't realize, right? So everybody gets into this. They think everything's easy. They do watch a lot of the reality. They think these deals are happening quick and fast and, I can get in and I can do it. But it's not really the truth of it, right? The truth is that a third of your deals are going to be super, super hard, right? A third are going to be easy, and a third you're never going to get ever. Now, the problem is that people, again, thinking that this is easy, they try to measure that in the today. And you can't. You have to be dedicated to this. And if you're dedicated to this as a career path, right? And listen, you can probably talk to this, right? Because you're now into this, 12 years?
13.
13 years, okay. So you're into it for 13 years, right? So what you found at the beginning is that you probably lost a ton of deals.
Yeah. I mean, I still lose deals. We always do. You know, but it's just how we know how to handle it.
Wow. Right? You also had a lot of very, very hard deals, but you stuck with them and you eventually got them done. Right. And then a third were, easy, but I mean, you had deals, but they're easy, but not as
very rarely is it just an ace in the hole, you know.
But now, if you look back 13 years, right, you're probably going to find that there was this balance, right, and that a third were easy, a third were hard, and a third you're never going to get. But what you've learned is that the third that were hard have now become easier for you.
Yeah.
The third that were easy are more plentiful, and the third that you were never going to get, you've learned to walk away from a lot quicker. So you have to stay driven, understanding that it is going to work. It is going to balance out, but you have to be patient.
There's going to be pain.
A lot of pain.
It's like, sure, you get to basic training, and then there's Hell Week.
Oh yeah. And Hell Week is more than just a week.
To use a SEALs reference.
Yeah.
And only then do you start to really know how to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the real big part of this is that you have to have desire.
Yeah.
Desire is just
you have to want it.
You have to. It's that love and that passion for what you're doing. And listen, everybody has a different desire for real estate.
I think that's what so many agents are missing. Like they come into the business thinking that there's like a binary way of doing things. There's like a formula to doing it, but there isn't. No. Like what I try to encourage my team members, like what I tell them coming into it is, I want to help you fall in love with this game by doing the thing that you really love.
Yeah.
Like Maya's a great example. She has a dog treat business. She's very passionate about dogs and, dog owners, and she knows a lot about that world, and she's building a dog treat business. And I helped her understand that by building your dog treat business, you're going to build your real estate business. If you're out on the street, handing free samples to every dog owner you meet in Central Park, most of them live in the immediate vicinity. use that opportunity to strike up conversation, to make meaningful connection.
Yes.
Before you know it, your network is going to develop curiosity about that world that you represent,
Yeah.
especially if they become regular customers of your dog treats.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And again, desire is one of those things. So for some agents, it's customer service. Some agents,
Like hospitality, taking care of people. Yeah.
Some people, it's the
I
art of
connect
making
big
the
with
deal.
that one, yeah.
For other agents like yourself, it's the creativity of marketing a property, putting it out there.
Telling the story.
Telling the story, exactly. So everybody has their own, desire, but you have to have that. You have to have that love and that passion.
You must.
And then there's a fourth D, which I never really mentioned, but the fourth D is really it's direction, and that's what they get from people like us, who have experience, who love to teach, who love to educate. I've been at this for 30 years now.
Wow. 30 years, huh?
30 years.
And I met you like 12 years ago.
Yeah, 12 years ago. I was 6 years into management at that point. Now 18 years into management.
And it started really with rentals.
Well, it started with rentals. I was a heavy rental agent, started in the business with the whole rental game. Wound up working for a number of different companies, worked for one of the largest rental companies here in New York. I was the number 1, number 2 agent for many years, and then found an opportunity to go and start a whole rental division for a smaller little brokerage. I was looking for somebody. Went in there, did that, did it for about 3 years with those guys, grew it from about $800,000 to an $8 million business in a very short period of time, 150 agents. And eventually that wound up collapsing, not due to us not being able to do it, just times and everything. And I wound up going over to a very large rental company and helped to redo their whole entire structure. I was actually going to go back to being an agent. And the owners of the company came to me one day and they said, listen, you want to be an agent again? You're kind of done with this management, but I got about 100 of your agents sitting outside my door and, they want you. So would you get back into management? And I don't know. I don't want to say reluctantly. I did it. My passion has changed over the years. I still love doing deals. I'm actually in the middle of doing a deal now. I do them occasionally here and there with buyers and so forth. But my passion is really working with agents, developing agents, building agents, growing agents.
And because that is the core of what you do, you see it all. Oh, you see everything. All the personalities, all the problems, all the wrenches in the engine, all the great things that come from all of this. But what are you getting the most of right now? I mean, the market is the market, and there's no market we can't do business in. Yeah. But with everything happening in our world, whether it's the NAR disputes or whether it's, I know that doesn't really apply to New York City.
Well, it does and it doesn't, right? Yeah. It does have a bit of a, listen, it's a conversation. It's opening up conversations that agents never had before. I think, listen, I think all the NAR things are doing, and depending on where the Department of Justice goes with a lot of this stuff, is creating a lot more transparency. Yeah. I think buyers' agreements are going to become more of a frequent thing. But, for me at least, and, for me to be able to speak to my agents, coming from a heavy rental background, I don't see it as an issue, right? I was on I don't want to say a podcast. What was it? I was on something with Ryan doing a Zoom panelist kind of thing. Yeah. And we were talking about different things. And one of the things that I kind of said, because we were talking a lot about this NAR stuff, I said, listen, at the end of the day, I have no problems with buyer's agreements or providing buyer's agreements to my clients, and my agents shouldn't either. And I think
being candid shouldn't be a concern.
Yeah, well, it's being candid, but it's also how you approach it. So I've always said that even when I was an agent doing tons and tons of rentals, that I always looked at it from the standpoint of I'm not just an agent here to rent you an apartment. And even when I started getting into sales, I'm not an agent just here to sell you something. I am here as someone who's going to be your, to guide you, to give you direction.
Guiding light.
The guiding light, right? We're going to have a consultative approach to this. And, I said it on that, program. Listen, I would, have clients call me up and they'd be like, hey, will you meet me out on the street corner? I'd be like, street corners, I don't do that. What do you mean you don't do that? Everybody else does that. And I says, yeah, well, you can go ahead and do that. You can go meet 100 different random brokers on 100 different random street corners and see 100 different random apartments. And when you figure out that none of them really work and you want to have somebody who you can actually come down and sit down with, who can actually take you through this process and will sit with you and interview you and find out all the different particulars and narrow it down to 3 or 4 apartments, come see me.
Yeah, it's like, our value is less about finding the home as much as it is in facilitating the process and engineering
100%.
the deal for them.
100%.
Like buyers, if you try to convince a buyer that they need you to find the home, that's not going to work.
No.
They have it all at their fingertips. The information's
Yeah.
accessible to everyone. That's what's made marketing so
Yes.
important in this current market that we're in.
Yeah.
But more so, our real value is in how we execute the transaction.
Yeah, so I always use this as an example. I had a young couple come in. They're moving back from overseas. She was originally from Pennsylvania, moved over to Switzerland. Met her then now fiance, and they had moved to Paris, where he was originally from, and spent some time in Paris. So they were Switzerland, Paris, and now moving back here for her job. She was one of those people, looked at tons and tons of things. I said, when you're ready, come on in and see me. So she did, and she wound up coming in and sitting with me. And we went through a whole discussion, and I asked lots of questions. I didn't even talk about real estate. I wanted to find out about them, who they were, where they were from, where did they live, what kind of things did they like to do, where did they go for entertainment, all these things. And when I was done with that, I then engaged her in the real estate conversation, and she had actually called me on an East Village listing. I said, okay, well, East Village, why? And she's like, well, lots of bars, and I don't know, I hear it's trendy and hip and everything. And okay, great, it is, and it's a nice place to go and visit, but how many apartments did you see? I don't know, 40 or so, and none of them worked out. She goes, nah. I said, well, I can tell you why. It's the inventory, it's the buildings, it's the atmosphere, it's tenements, it's not you. So she said, well, where would you put me?
What's me?
I said, well, you're actually the Upper West Side. And she said, well, families, kids. I said, no. It is and it isn't, right? There are families and kids. And I said, it's not just the Upper West Side, which is a big neighborhood, as you know. I said, it's actually 3 blocks of the Upper West Side. She goes, what? I said, between 72nd Street and 75th Street, between Central Park West, and I'd take you maybe as far as, going down to Broadway, but most likely I would leave you off on Columbus, Amsterdam, those areas over there. So she said, really? I said, yeah, just do me a favor. Go look at 3 apartments, right? All I'm asking, look at 3 apartments. And if none of them work, we'll sit back down and you tell me where you want to go. So I sent her out with one of my juniors at that time. And I had a thing where the juniors had to call me at the end of the showing. And the junior called me and he goes, the client definitely wants to talk to you. I was like, great. So put the client on. So she gets on the phone with me and she goes, listen, we've got a problem. I said, oh, sorry. No, was I wrong? She goes, well, no, you were actually right. I said, oh, okay, so then there's really no problem. She goes, no, well, there is. I said, well, what's the problem? I like all 3. And it was really just understanding where she came from and what would trigger her emotional response to a place. And when you walk up and down those blocks on, the Upper West Side there on 70s, it brings you back to a little bit of that Parisian feel, a little bit of that, European feel, all those brownstones and townhouses. And even when you walk inside of them, you have lots of wood details and all the things that they're accustomed to.
And touching on what you said about just understanding the clients just want to feel seen.
Yes.
They want to feel understood. They want to feel heard.
They do.
The same idea, and I've said this many times, but there is really a fundamental difference between service and hospitality, which is why I've made hospitality such an important element of how I train my team. It's part of the reason why I prefer to take young new agents. I'm not looking for people with 2-3 years experience. I'm genuinely looking for new agents that I can train and develop and help fall in love with the business, with the work. And I think a great avenue to that is by focusing on hospitality, by taking a more elongated approach to connection, by going deep in calibrating to the people we work with, because that is what creates retention. Maybe it takes a little longer to get the listing or to get the buyer or to get the deal done, but it's more guaranteed.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel about it. I think that if you can be unreasonable, as Will Guidara would say, in your approach to hospitality, it just opens up tons of doors.
Yes. And some of the best agents come from the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely, because they really have a genuine understanding of how to take care of people.
And they know how to explain things, right? They know how to present things.
Because patience is not only important for yourself, but you have to be patient with the client.
Yes.
Be patient with the deal. I think that's really part of what Ryan really means when he says close on day one. It's not about the transaction. It's about the connection. Solidifying the connection, make sure they go nowhere else.
Yep.
Like, why would they?
They should have no need to.
I have a memory of a story which I remember to this day that you told, and I think it'd be a great soundbite for this episode. But I'd love to hear the Alex Trebek story. I think everyone would love to hear that story.
Oh, which one was that?
Especially in loving memory of him.
Yeah.
You did like a small rental with his son or something like that.
Oh yeah. No, so we did so his son actually had come in, and Alex was a very humble guy. Very, the guy went to Costco, wore Costco jeans. You know, he was just super humble, and his son was super humble also, Matt Trebek. And we wound up, doing a small little rental with Matt. And, we maintained a relationship with him, not because of who he was, but just because that's what we do. And that small little rental then turned into, well, Matt wanted to go and buy a townhouse.
Right.
And we wound up selling him a multifamily townhouse. And then he decided he wanted to open up a restaurant.
You took care of that too.
We took care of that too. And then he brought his father in, because his father wanted to start investing in some buildings, and we started taking him around actually on West 75th Street, that same area that I actually happened to show that lady. So, it was a great, and we're still in touch with Matt. He's amazing. He's such a good kid. They're all kids to me these days. Getting all 30 years of this.
But I remember you mentioning that you were initially reluctant to even take the lead on because it was like $2,500 rental. And it's like, all right, just another one. And it really shows the importance of picking up the pieces, grabbing at as much of this as you really can. Because they might be renting something for $2,500 now, but if they're coming to New York and they want to live the New York life and they want to stay in New York, you better place a bet on them that they will succeed.
Well, that, and you just never know who you're dealing with. Right? You never know who's on the other side of that transaction. So Matt was one of those. He was just a little $2,500 rentals. Did we need it? No. Could we have worked on bigger and better things? Of course. But again, you service every client the same way. There's also another story, the one with Adam.
Let's hear it.
Who used to work out of our office when we were over at Douglas Elliman. Yeah. So Adam, again, just working hard, didn't really care, was about service, and wound up with a $2,500 rental company. Actually, I think it was even less than that. It was like a $1,500 studio rental. And the guy he was dealing with had a very heavy accent. You could barely understand him. And Adam's like, yeah, what do you need? Don't worry, I got you. I'll take you out. I'll show you things. And Adam wound up meeting him and took him out. And the guy just normal, Schlubishy kind of a guy. Talked with a heavy Russian accent and a very soft voice. You wouldn't think much of it, Didn't have any jobs here or anything. Had to pay a year up front when you still could do it back then. And Adam took him through the whole entire process, serviced him, properly, correctly. And at the end of it, the guy turns to Adam and he goes, nobody else wanted to work with me. I don't know why. Nobody wanted to handle me or help me or this or that. But you were so professional and everything. And you know what? I need to start investing in New York. I want to start buying some properties. Well, moral of that story is that guy actually turned out to be a multi-billionaire. He was worth about $20 billion. Yeah. Just a simple guy. And now Adam generates, I can't tell you how much business. He's probably sold him at minimum of probably about $750 million worth of real estate.
Wow.
And he oversees it.
That's amazing.
He rents it. He sells it. He, does.
He buys individual units and rents them out.
Buys individual units, rents them out. Wow. He's buying a lot of new dev stuff.
That's great.
Yeah.
Just tell Adam to bring him to 200 Amsterdam.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, we just got another offer today on 200 Amsterdam.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, thank God. The building's busy. That has been such an amazing experience. I mean, we're only a few months into it, but I'm so I like being on that project. For me, it was like, wow, I really, really made the right decision to come to SERHANT.
Yeah. Well, I always told you that, opportunities will open up, doors will open up for you.
Yeah.
And, and I'm glad to see that they have.
Yeah. It's been amazing. I feel like my career has really, really leveled up over these last couple of years, which is so great because this is one of those businesses where we really are never fully enlightened. There's always deeper that we can go and that we can travel and more for us to learn and to get into the weeds on. But again, it's perfect timing. That's why it's really perfect timing that I came to SERHANT.
Yeah, I think it's been perfect timing for a number of agents like yourself who felt like they were being held back, didn't have the opportunities, that the larger brokers could offer but wouldn't offer. We have Lance, same thing, Lance was,
How's Lance doing? I haven't seen him in a while.
He's doing awesome.
He's still on the Huron, right?
He's still on the Huron. I think they're over 70% sold out.
It's crazy.
Started the project at the very beginning.
Wow.
Spread his wings. He was scared to do it. He came off a big team.
New dev is tough.
It's
really tough. It's a tremendous amount of time. On the listing side, the pay is all right.
Yeah.
So, it's just that, it's really a volume game. So you're pedal to the metal the whole time.
Yeah.
But the experience is you can't compare it. You're working with these great developers. You're meeting tons of people.
Yeah.
You're representing these gorgeous homes.
Yeah.
It's really another level of the market.
Yeah. So anybody out there who's listening, if you have any buyers for 200 Amsterdam, we still have a handful of units.
You're listening to the right podcast.
You're listening to the right podcast. Bring them on in. We're here to make deals.
Exactly. So what would you say? I'm sure you also talk to a lot of new agents who are coming in who, I know SERHANT is not quite yet built for brand new agents unless they're joining a team.
Yeah.
But what would you say the main piece of advice is that you're giving to everybody considering getting into real estate? I feel like I try to talk people out of it when they want to come into real estate at first.
Yeah, listen, you talk them out of it, because if you can't talk them out of it, then that means that they at least have that drive part to it, and that, they're most likely going to stay with it.
Yeah.
But you scare them. You listen, I always tell them you have to have a lot of savings. This isn't one of those businesses.
You can't get into it for the money.
No, you can't get into it for the money. And even in rentals these days, you can't get into it.
No, everything's changed for rentals. Yeah. When I got into the business, it was the tail end of that era where it was the golden years of rentals.
Yeah.
When I first started, it was couple transactions a week.
Yeah, and there was a lot, but there was inventory, right?
Yes.
So now we're talking about 1.5%.
And there was furnished inventory, and there was short-term rentals. There was so much creativity. There was upfront payments and multiple months of security and all these ways to be creative with the deal. 2019 changed everything in that context, even though the golden years were already kind of gone.
They were going. It was fading after 2008.
But that was the nail in the coffin. That was
100%.
all right.
100%. And inventory's dried up. So you're talking 1.5% inventory right now, which is a 50 some odd year low.
Yeah, rentals just went nuts the last few years. There's nothing.
There's no housing.
But it's great because when you do get a rental listing, you're guaranteed to rent it fast. It's great.
Somebody today was telling me that they had a rental listing, $7,000 for a studio.
No way. What, in Soho or something like that?
So, but even still, $7,000.
I just did another rental with Johnny. We put a Midtown 2-bedroom on the market for $6,250. He rented it in 8 days.
Yeah, there's just no inventory. Yeah. And I think one of the things that COVID brought about was that people may have left the city, they may have gone elsewhere, but they didn't get rid of their apartments.
Yeah, or even if they did leave, people took their place.
Yeah, well, people took their place, to a degree. We're still short on population, but from the housing perspective, they still own all those pied-à-terres.
How short are we really on population? The city feels like it's banging.
It depends on where you are and what areas and stuff. You feel it in different places and different areas.
I mean, the media does a really good job of painting a very negative picture about New York, but New York in its history has a lot more bad years than good ones.
Yeah, well, listen, it's going through a thing right now. We can't really deny that. I know media likes to present a worse picture than it is, but listen, crime, is up, right? Whether the numbers show it or not, we feel it, we sense it, we can see it. And the numbers may not be totally on because their police just aren't able to do what they used to do.
Yeah,
and they just turn their back a lot of times, not because they want to, just because what's the alternative? Catch and release.
It's like the new rent laws.
Yeah, it's just like their new rent laws. But listen, we need to get that in order. But if you look at the subways, at times they're still very they're not always as full as they used to be. Certain areas are a little bit less full. But listen, New York is New York. It will come back. It will come back stronger than ever. 52 years I've been in the city. I've seen everything. Born in 1970, lived through the 70s, the 80s, which were a rough time. Into the 90s and the crime, crack epidemics and everything else. Into the great years of the internet bubble and boom, into the 2000s. So it will come back. It just goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down.
Yeah.
We just need to refigure out who we are and what we are, right? And over the years, New York has always changed industries that are leading and dominating. In the 70s, it was the advertising agencies who were coming in, and Madison Avenue was like ad agency haven. And, then it went into the internet bubble. And most people don't even realize that during the internet days, New York had more .coms than Silicon Valley. We were flush with them, right? So, and then that dried up. And then, pharmaceuticals came in and research and finance. There's always a shift and there's always a change in industry. We just have to figure out what's the next industry that's going to come in here and help boost us a little bit. So
we just got to sell them homes.
Yeah, we just got to sell them homes. Well, we got to build some homes.
Yeah.
We got to build some homes.
Yeah. What would you say Serhant's biggest challenge is going into the next few years? We're a young company. So it's like for someone like me, for example, it's very nice to be part of something that's new, that's growing, being there early staged and feeling like you're part of that growth is a special thing.
Yeah. And I think that's, it's good that you said, because I think that's going to be one of the hardest challenges. How do you maintain that environment,
that culture
where everybody still feels
boutique culture,
culture connected?
Because boutique is it's like the same thing. You get a lot better service and experience at a boutique hotel than you do at a Ritz-Carlton.
Yeah. Well, I think, for us, it's just how do you manage that growth? And how do you keep that boutique feeling? I talk to Ryan about this all the time. Do we need to be the biggest and the best? Do we need to be the largest brokerage in New York? Or do we just need to be the best brokerage in New York?
I was going to say, we certainly don't have to be the largest to reach number one.
No.
I think we do need more heavy hitter agents.
Yeah.
So I think with time and the maturity of the brand, we will get more agents of substance.
And we are getting them. We just brought on Peter Zaitev.
That guy is a killer.
Yeah.
He's amazing.
He's a great guy.
I really get so much joy out of working alongside him on 200 Amsterdam, because he's not only a wealth of knowledge, like he knows the market cold, but he's a seasoned real estate professional.
Extremely seasoned.
He really, really understands. I could speak to him, and there's nothing I could tell him that he has not gone through or doesn't know.
Yeah,
and that's really nice. He's like one of the first.
Yes.
That I feel like I could have that conversation with.
Yeah, and he's not caught up in his, what he does and, his success and everything.
Yeah, and he's very. And by the way, this is a great lesson for the audience: is that he embodies himself.
Yes.
He dresses how he feels. He maintains a presence of mind of himself. He's not trying to be anything he's not. He stays on brand.
Yes.
And I think that's core and pivotal for anyone, especially who's building their own team or building independence in the business. You really need that.
Yeah. And listen, we brought on Ravi Kanta.
He's great.
He's great. And again, these guys are all big agents, but they just have a different air about them. They don't have arrogance.
Yes.
They're just easygoing, understand what their job is,
That's
don't get
really
caught
important.
up in it.
Yeah.
We brought on the Luxury Alliance team, Mary Elizabeth Smith and Alexandra Newman and Amit Golriz. They actually came together. They were all working separately, doing separate things. Amit was new development and rentals. Mary Elizabeth was resales, and Alex was, doing her new developments. And they came together and they created this team, and they're quickly becoming one of our top teams.
You guys must get a lot of inquiries from people just entering real estate through the switchboard. So send them my way.
I will send them
because
I
want to build a bigger team.
Okay.
For sure, I want to build a bigger team, and I've been able to yield some attention in that context through LinkedIn. But if you guys have new agents coming in the switchboard, and Serhant's not yet ready to take on new independent agents, I'm looking to train new ones, new ones.
Well, I've got one or two for you. Actually, Ace Wantana Suparp. Ace
Really?
Ace reached out. His cousin. She's over at some small little brokerage.
What's he up to now?
Realty.
He's like a startup guy.
He's a startup guy.
Restaurants.
Well, he's always got his.
He's
hand
a money
in something.
man.
He is a money man. So he's started a company, Ripco. It's a mortgage company, and they're doing those.
They're a broker also, Ripco.
Yeah, they're a broker. They're trying to do harder deals that other banks and other lenders won't touch, but Ripco can actually handle those deals and get financing behind them and stuff. So
yeah, so if you see a Ripco listing, you can assume it's under some sort of financial strain.
I don't know if it's under financial strain,
or it's a deal that needs creativity.
It may, it may. So, but so I have a couple people for you. I'll send them over your way.
Fantastic. Do you think that Serhant will develop a platform that is geared towards new agents?
I think in time.
Yeah.
What that time frame is, I'm not really sure. it's a lot. And I think you know this. You have to have a real heavy infrastructure. Listen, I think as we develop our ventures group, which is our educational group, which is the Sell It courses, like SERHANT.
That's the most brilliant thing.
Yeah.
Because that's like people don't know this yet and hasn't been published in the Real Deal yet, but SERHANT has the biggest global referral network that exists out of any brokerage. Yeah. People don't realize that, but that's the magic of Sell It.
Yes.
You have a couple 100,000 real estate agents that are part of this program in 120 countries. Yeah. I mean, that sounds bigger than the Knight Frank Global Network.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that it's actually unique because it's not just like, when you're talking about a Keller Williams or Douglas Elliman, they always talk about their own internal referral network, where ours is not internal. No. It's an external. And these are brokers from all over the country, all over the world, and all from different brokerages. Yeah. So it's nice, when you can go into that network and you can actually find the best of the best, not just because you
could pick any market you want, and you can find an agent there who has the same principles as a SERHANT agent, the same principles that you do, because they're under the same guidelines and training. So for me, I was a cohort on a couple of these SERHANT courses, and I met brokers from all over the world, agents from all over the world, from Japan, from different markets in the U.S., from different markets in South Africa and Australia. So it's like, oh my God, like if I get a client who just wants to buy a home in Cape Town, I already know who I can reach out to who gets it from the SERHANT perspective.
Yes.
So that is extremely powerful.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a very powerful tool. And I think we could, at some point utilize that tool as a tool to develop and build agents. You'll need to have the space. You need to have like a real office space to do that out of, which I think is something that we're exploring now.
I was going to ask you, do you think mobile force is going to remain the infrastructure model?
I don't know if it's going to remain the infrastructure model. I think there will be a model in which agents can choose. Which model they want.
You probably just need a couple more clubhouses. Like if you got 2 or 3 more clubhouses in the city, small buildings, big townhouses, things like that. You could rent a great townhouse on the Upper East Side and make that your uptown clubhouse.
Yeah. No, we could do that. We're also looking at, doing a, flex split kind of a thing where, if you want office space, it's going to be a lower split. If you don't need the office space and you want to be more of a mobile workforce, and maybe you get a higher split.
Or pay a monthly fee for it.
Or pay a monthly fee or something. Yeah. But I think there's ways to work around that. I don't think everybody wants to come in, but the younger generation who's getting into this needs to come in because you need to be around other agents, right? There's so much that happens. I remember Andre Rausch and Ofer. Andre had just come back from looking at 220 CPS, and it hadn't even hit the market yet. Deb Kern got him in, and it was prior to anybody even knowing you can get in, right? And he came back to the office. He was talking about his experience and the fact that he just got in there and he saw this property, and Over's like, oh my God, my buyer I've been trying to get in there. And Andre's like, oh, you want to get in? I'll make a call. And made the call and got him in. And, he wound up doing I think it was like an $18 million townhouse deal over there.
Wow.
Yeah, but it was because he was in the office, right? Because you can overhear things. You learn things from being around. When I was doing rentals, I used to have my desk on the rental floor. I was very open. I didn't have an office around me. And I did it that way because I wanted the agents to hear me on the phone, talking to landlords, negotiating these deals, going through all these issues, these problems, how I was doing it. And the agents that sat closest to me learned the most. And it was funny, actually. Agents would fight to have the desks closest to me so they could hear me and they could learn from me.
Whenever Coyne is in the office, I make it a point to be there and to get a seat as close to him as possible. Yeah. He just projects that learning. You feel like you're getting smarter sitting next to him, especially in tech.
Yeah.
But that's a smart approach. And I tell my agents all the time, spend as much time down at SERHANT as you can.
Yeah. Come on down.
Yeah. Just spend time there. Be around the other agents. Eavesdrop on phone calls, just be in the midst of it. Yeah. And that in and of itself is inspiring. So that's why Maya and Ophir, they spend a lot of time there just because they're also early stage in learning.
Yeah. And ease in on every conversation.
Yeah.
I was on the train yesterday and coming back, and I heard these 2 girls and they're talking about rentals, and I could see that they were on their phones looking at Street Easy ads, and They started saying, well, I don't know, what do we do? I'm going to bring all my documents. I'm going to be ready. I'll have all my money. I'll, bring a deposit for the things. And I was listening to it, and then I interjected, and I said, no, you don't have to bring the deposit. We don't take deposits, right? We just, can take an application. You can bring your documents. That's always good, but most of that will get emailed over.
Yeah.
And what is it, a condo
Best
or a
horse
co-op?
wins the race at the end of the day.
And they were surprised, and we just got into the whole conversation. And, if I was an agent, I probably could have picked them up as clients. I was just doing it for fun. One of the things that I enjoy doing is just engaging people in real estate talk because I have a desire, I have a love and a passion for it. So, so you have to be eavesdropping on all kinds of conversations, not just in the office, but even outside. There are buyers and tenants and landlords and everything. If you hear real estate, engage in the conversation.
Yeah, and there's the beautiful thing about New York is that it doesn't matter who you are. There's a demographic of people you could sell real estate to.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. You could be the weirdest person on the planet. Doesn't matter. There are people you could sell homes to.
Yeah,
who connect with you, who relate to you. That's the magic of New York that no other city really has.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a magical city, right?
So what else is going on in SERHANT world? What's next for all of us? What can I expect?
What can you expect? Big things. We're releasing our Netflix show. It's going to be coming out in June. I think everybody knows it's out there. I don't think they've announced the name of it. We're going to have our launch party, I think, on June 22nd for the show. Yeah. And then I think the show will probably release a week after that. I think it's going to be pretty big for us. I think that will, again, reinforce this whole model that I was talking about where we're going from gas to hybrid to electric.
Well, your expansion rate's going to have to pick up a bit at that point. I'm sure a lot of agents want to, get in on that.
Yeah, we're trying to be smart about it though.
Yeah.
Right. Open up a few markets here or there, go slow. No need to race down the line to get to every market and do it fast and do it quick. Do it slow. Let everybody get to know each other and then bring on some more. Let them get to know everybody, bring on some more. So, but we will be expanding and we will be growing. But I think, the future looks bright for us. Future looks bright.
I'm excited to be a part of it. I feel very loyal to this company. I was really inches from taking an offer with Compass until you gave me a call. And you called me just to tell me that you were over at SERHANT now.
Yes.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm actually thinking of making the jump to Compass. You're like, why don't you just come have one conversation first?
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. So I came to the building. I met with you. I met with Scott. I walked through the building, and I was just like, I would be crazy not to come here. This is so befitting of who I am as a real estate agent. Yeah. Not only did I turn down that offer, that 6-figure offer, but I came to SERHANT and I took on overhead. Yeah. But I'm very happy about it. I feel very, very loyal to the company. And I tell you this all the time, don't go anywhere. Because
I'm not going anywhere.
Really, I feel deeply connected to you and staying close to you. And I think that's really the comforting force that really drew me in. Yeah. I know Ryan and we've been friendly for a long time. And we've seen each other in showings over the years. And so we always knew each other in an industry context. So. But now I feel like I really fit in at SERHANT, and he's also an exceptional leader because he really cares and deploys the personal touch, which is great considering how busy he is and how much he has on his plate. Yes. He's never said no to me if I asked for time or anything like that.
I think you have an interesting Ryan story to tell.
Do I?
You do. I think it even goes around what we're doing here today.
With the video stuff?
Yeah.
So I think I've told this story here before, but basically, Ryan, when I first started vlogging, it was 2016. This is before YouTube vlogging in real estate really existed. And there was one week where I was hopping around and I got invited to a new development party that Ryan was hosting. I think it was in the West Village somewhere. And I emailed him before. I was like, hey, you mind if I bring my camera? I'm doing this vlog. I tried to explain it in the email. And he just wrote LOL, sure.
Yeah.
Great. So I show up and he starts kind of making fun of me for doing this. It's like, what is this? This is YouTube, this, that. I was like, yeah, it's YouTube. Are you going to subscribe? You this and that, blah, blah, blah. And making fun. He's bearded, his bearded Ryan making fun of me for vlogging. And listen, that vlog really propelled me to the next level in my career, and it wasn't too long before all of a sudden Ryan had a vlog. I'm not going to say that I take credit for him vlogging. I will say that I like to believe that I was an inspiration.
I'm sure you were. He looked at it and he said, well, if he can do it, well, why can't I?
I have more money. I could pay for this. That makes perfect sense. But I still extract a lot of joy from doing this myself, from doing this stuff on my own.
Yeah.
It's the thing that keeps me in it.
I know.
And it's the one piece of advice I give to everybody is do the thing that makes you tick. Yeah. Use real estate as a vehicle for that.
Yeah. So, no, I remember, it was almost 10 years ago, I guess, when we first met. And you always had this passion. And when we did have that conversation, when I called you up to let you know that I was over here and you said you were thinking about leaving, I said, well, listen, I think this is where you belong. Because everything we're doing is everything that you're doing.
Right.
And we will support you behind that venture.
And you guys really do. The studios team, everybody's really supportive, and they genuinely want to see the agents succeed, which is... Again, it's the personal touch. Yeah. You guys are really deploying the personal touch, which I think is the thing that's hard to keep a hold of if you go beyond the boutique culture as a company.
It does.
And of course, you don't want to hinder growth.
No.
But
I think if you bring on the right agents and the right people, and
for sure,
you do it the right way, you can grow a very sustainable business.
For sure.
So. Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
It was my pleasure.
And for doing this. I hope that the audience draws a little bit of inspiration from this, especially new and up-and-coming agents. Give them a sense of what to expect. They should call you if they have any questions.
They certainly can.
You probably have 30 missed calls in
God only
1 hour and 10 minutes we've been doing this.
God only knows how many calls. I don't even bother.
Just leave your phone face down the rest of the day.
I try, but they don't. They send up smoke signals. They do Morse code.
I'm having such a crazy busy couple of weeks that it's nonstop. So I'm like, I feel a little bit of anxiety to turn around and see what's on my computer, but it's all good. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to be busy, and that's what we're after.
That is.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
Always a pleasure.
Pleasure was mine. Well, that was interesting.
That was fun, right? Just conversation.